Good morning. Today we are going to discuss about what after BMS. Most of you who are in final year will be having this question, that is what after BMS, whether to work as a duty doctor or start your own clinic, whether I will be successful if I start my own practice or not. Such questions will be there in everyone's mind. Or there will be some doctors who has other ideas like going into the research field, going into the other streams like yoga and dietitian courses, and also into the UPSC and various such options will be there after the BAMS. But being a BMS doctor, what is uh, what is the role of the BMS doctor, and what are the opportunities he or she has got, and how he can be successful with those opportunities? Those pros and cons today I'm going to discuss. So coming to the first point, that is why you guys choose Ayurveda. Just to be called as doctor, you all choose BMS, or you really passionate about this BMS course and wanted to do something with the BMS course, or wanted to achieve something? If you're just wanted to be called as a doctor and you chose BMS, then you will be having very limited options, and being a successful doctor just because you wanted to be called as doctor is not going to help you. But if you are really passionate about Ayurveda, surely you can be successful with the BMS itself, and even after the BMS, you can go for the various post graduation courses, and with those post graduation courses and all, it can be really successful. So we'll be looking about the options we have got with BMS. First option is clinical practice. So that everyone will be knowing that. So clinical, how to be successful with the clinical practice, that will be there in everyone's mind. If you are really passionate about the Ayurveda practice, surely you can be very successful with the clinical practice as well. But the thing is, from the age of 21, 22, you should be start planning about your future, like for the next 7 to 8 years, or you can take it as a one decade, from 20th year to the 30th year. You just keep on planning about the your future, okay, so that you can execute that once you turn up 30 years. But if you start planning at the age of 30 years, it's not going to help you. If you have the clear cut roadmap in front of you before you turn 30, you can be successful like any other doctors from other stream of health sciences, and you can earn in the same way like other stream of doctors are doing, and you will be much more successful than your other stream of doctors as well. But the thing is, the right plans and the right roadmaps is necessary to be successful. So at the age of 20, you should be having a clear, you should start planning about your future. Like, so where I have to start my clinical practice, and when I have to start my clinical practice. Soon after BMS, I want to start my clinical practice, or should I join the MD, or should I go for any other courses, or should I go for a senior doctor who is already successful in the field of Ayurveda and learn something from him and learn how to practice in that particular area. Such things, you should be having a clear cut idea about such things. Once you have such a clear cut idea, you can surely start executing soon after your BMS. But mostly what our BMS doctors do is they'll they'll be under dilemma, like whether I should join the BMS. I should join the MD or MS soon after the BMS, or should I take some 2 years gap so that I can learn something, and I have not learned anything to how to treat a patient with Ayurveda, and how to conduct Panchakarma therapies. All those things I don't know, so I have to learn those things from the senior Ayurveda practitioners. Such doubts will be there. But the best decision maker about your own future is you only. So you will be knowing about your pros and cons, like what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses. All those things you will be knowing. So if you are good at communication skills, you can surely start clinical practice from the day one after finishing your BAMS. And even I started my clinical practice soon after my BAMS. Like within a week, I have started my clinical practice. But to do that, you should be very confident enough, and you should have the thorough knowledge about what you have learned, and the practical things. What are the practical difficulties you face in the clinical practice when you start individual clinical practice? Such things you should be knowing. If you don't know the clinical difficulties, or the difficulties which you are going to face once you start your individual practice, then it will be a failure to start the clinical practice soon after the BMS. So you just make sure about your strengths and about your weaknesses, and if your strengths are more than your weaknesses in that particular field, then only choose that field. I always emphasizes on clinical practice for those who have completed BAMS than going into the other fields like MPH, or into the yoga stream, or into the other academics and all. See, most of the times we will end up as working as a duty doctor, but I, as a BMS doctor, I always emphasizes on private clinical practice rather than going into any allopathic hospital as a duty doctor. Even after working for 2 decades in allopathic hospitals for as a duty doctor, you will not be having any individual identity, whichever state you are from. It may be from the state where allopathic practice is allowed for the Ayurveda doctors, or if you are from a state where allopathic practice is completely restricted for the is not allowed for the BMS doctors, like in Kerala and all. You are no way you are allowed to practice allopathy. If you are from such state, and if you are working in a state where allopathic practice is allowed, like in Maharashtra and all, still, even after working for 2 decades, you will not be having an individual identity once you come out of that hospital. So make sure that is the last option, and that is the least concerned once you finish your BMS. That is only for those who really want to earn something, and whose life is very difficult if they can't go as a duty doctor, and if they can't earn soon after the BMS. Such fellows has to go for the duty doctor post. But being a BMS doctor, as I keep on mentioning that about the importance of clinical practice, always choose this clinical practice, and it will takes you to the heights you have never imagined in your life, even with just BMS. Not necessary to be having a MD or MS or something like that. Even I don't have an MD or MS, but as of today, I have completed my 7.5 years of Ayurveda practice in Mysore city, and I'm as of now I'm doing good with the Ayurveda practice. And also, I've treated more than 300 cases of hypothyroidism. So I'll make sure that you are chosen a particular streamline where you can be very successful, and where your strength is more than that of your weaknesses. Okay, so coming into the options, I have listed just 6 options. I know you have listed more than 6 options in your after BMS life. Like you may be having more than 6 options, but I have made a short list of these 6 options. That is, one is clinical practice, the second one is academics, third one is management and administration, fourth one is research, fifth one is drug manufacturing, sixth one is duty doctor. So I'll discuss about the clinical practice more. I may need around some 30 to 35 minutes to discuss about the clinical practice. So I'll take it up in the end stage. I'll go to the second option, that is academics. See, if we see the trend as of today, most of the doctors or most of the faculties in our Ayurveda colleges are not really practicing. It is a very sad thing. There may be doctors who are practicing outside their colleges and in the colleges as well, but BMS students, as a BMS doctors, you know better about your colleges and your faculties and all. But most of the times, what we have observed is, if you have some 50 to 60 faculties in our college, hardly we can see some 10 to 15 successful Ayurveda practitioners who are into academics. Most of the times, more than 70% of the doctors, the faculties who are teaching us may not be a successful practitioner outside the colleges and all. But again, is it enough to have the practical skills from those 15 to 20 doctors who are successful in the field of clinical practice in your college? That question will be there in your mind. Yes, I say it is enough. Even if you have some 2 to 3 successful doctors in your college who are successful, very successful in your practical, in their clinical practice, they are more than sufficient for you guys to learn the art of practicing Ayurveda. So make sure you can find them. And also, so if you really want to go into the academics, make sure you are not fall under those 70% people who are not successful in the field of practice, but they are into the teaching. Make sure you are into the teaching as well as you are into the clinical practice as well. So that gives an individual identity, and that takes you to the heights you have never imagined in your life. And you can be very successful in when you choose both academics as well as clinical practice. So if you are really want to get into the academics, make sure the subject you want to take. See, no subject is less or no subject is placed very high. Some says like, what are you going to do with learning Dravya Guna? See, thing is, most of the times we forget the importance of even the Padartha Vijnana subject which we study in the first year. See, in the present COVID situations, what we are hearing from the other stream doctors is like, you have not done any double blind study in case of these COVID medicines, and you have not done such type of research, this type of research. All those queries you will get. You are unable to answer such queries. Why? Because you don't know the importance of Padartha Vijnana. You have forgot the thing that is Pratyaksham Alpam, Apratyaksham Analpam, the Apratyaksha, that is Anumana, and the Aptopadesha, those are more than the Pratyaksha Pramana. So, most of the times with the Ayurveda, we will not be successful with double blind studies and all, because where you do the animal studies and all, there will be it is almost against the basic Ayurvedic principles. That is where the manas plays a major role in treating the disease, any particular disease. If you take any lifestyle disorder, your mind plays a major role than your physical body. So most of the times these psychosomatic disorders requires this importance of the mind and all. So if you are giving a medicine and if you are doing a research on rat, what are the emotions you are going to induce in a rat? What are the emotions? What are the stress you are going to induce on the mind of the rat? Those things misses out when it comes to the research field and when it comes to the Ayurveda researches and all. So what other stream of what other doctors from the other streams asks you, like, you have not done the double blind studies and all those things. So if you are really can interpret the basic Ayurveda things like Padartha Vijnana and the importance of this Dravya Guna and importance of this Rashastra, all those things, even if you do MD from any stream of the Ayurveda, you can be successful. But make sure you are into practice and you are well into interpreting the things which are present in our Ayurveda. Like most of the times, what the present day research relies on is the active ingredients, phytoactive ingredients, and alkaloids, all those things we rely on the available data. But that is not the only thing which is truth about the drugs. There may be some other things which we have not done any researches as of today, but it is mentioned in our Ayurveda, like the prabhavas of the particular drugs. All those things you should be very clear about all those things. Then only you can be very successful. So whatever subject you are going to do your PG, you make sure no subject in PG is less or no subject is more. Like some people considers Panchakarma is the superior, some considers Shalya is superior, some thinks Kaya Chikitsa is superior. No, there is nothing like that. Only thing is the one who does it matters. Like the one who has got that MD in Panchakarma and is not good at all in the practice field, then what is the use of having a Panchakarma MD? What is the use of having a Panchakarma MD and going into a allopathic hospital as a duty doctor and getting treated as a slaves in the hands of others, like just working for some 12 hours for the mere salary of some 30,000, 40,000 and all. See, the salary is another thing, but you will not be having an individual identity at all, even after working for 30 to 40 years and all. So even if you don't have any post graduation, if you are having a just BAMS, and if you are successful in Ayurveda, and if you are started having your own identity in the field of Ayurveda, then that's enough being an BMS doctor. So if you are getting into the MD, make sure you are choosing a subject which is good for you and not as per the society and as per the demand which is created in the colleges and which is there in the field of Ayurveda, like oh, this Panchakarma is having good demand in the colleges, or Kaya Chikitsa is having good demand in some states. Nothing like that. It is only a matter of which subject is good for you and which subject you are strong enough. I have seen many successful practitioners who are very successful in treating very challenging cases in the field of Ayurveda, or even if those cases which are very challenging for the modern system of doctors as well, like Dr. Balendu Prakash sir, who is just having a BMS and he is a Padma Shri awardee, and he has treated so many chronic pancreatitis cases and even the acute pancreatitis cases. What really mattered for him is the love towards his Ayurveda, the love towards this disease which he wanted to really make a difference for the mankind. He has treated more than thousands of cases, and even today he is treating so much challenging cases which has got no solutions in other system of medicines. I can clearly say those chronic and acute pancreatitis has got very limited options for a patient, but he is taking so many cases. But what really mattered is not his PG, not his so many what to say that academic degrees and all. So the first option, even being academics, is clinical practice only again. And if you don't get the PG seat, and if you can't afford for the PG seat, what are the other options? And what if you don't have a communication skills to be a successful in clinical practice? Then there are various MSc options, like you can do MSc anatomy, you can do MSc physiology, you can do MSc yoga, you can do MSc dietetics, clinical nutrition and dietetics. So many options are there with the MSc. Again, this amount of the salary, there will be limitation for those things, like being an MSc holder and getting into an medical colleges with MSc anatomy, or getting into any other Ayurveda colleges with MSc physiology, or as a tutor. You can work as a tutor or as a lecturer, but there will not be any promotions with MSc physiology or anatomy or even microbiology, those allied sciences. But you can earn something and you can work as an academician with MScs as well. And other than that, you can have many certified courses like post graduation diploma in various courses like nutrition, dietetics, all those things. See, what really matters with those courses are like you can have some few letters to write in front of BMS. Other than that, those degrees not really matters for an BMS doctor. But nowadays what happens is like when you get into the clinical practice field, those who comes to you looks at your qualifications, like what he has done and what are his specialization, all those things at the beginning of your career really matters, but not at the, like, once you are established and once you are successful, then nothing matters for your success. Other than certified courses, you can go for the yoga courses. What are the yoga courses? See, you now you can go into the yoga university and you can get your yoga instructor course certificate. Actually it's not going to help you in a big way, but you can be an yoga instructor. See, being a doctor and just getting called as an yoga instructor, there is a lot big difference will be there. But if you really want to do something with yoga, you can really get into MSc yoga course or post graduation yoga courses, as well as you can do some yoga teachers training courses from various global associations like World Yoga Alliance or American Yoga Alliance. In such associations, you can do the yoga courses. Those yoga courses has got some international identity, and those with those yoga courses, like those courses will be like 200 hours, 300 hours, and 500 hours yoga teachers training courses. With those courses, you can be an yoga teacher, international yoga teacher, and you can start your own academy. What are the benefits being an yoga teacher and also an Ayurveda doctor? See, as we know, yoga is nothing but a branch of Ayurveda, and which comes under our daily regimen. And considering all those things and considering the basic principles with the yoga, being an Ayurveda doctor, you will be very efficient to teach the yoga, the theoretical part, as well as as well as the practicals. Like, once you are done with these yoga courses, you can be a successful entrepreneur, and you can start your own yoga academies. And remember, India is the country which has given yoga to the world, and the whole world is looking towards India. And most of the Westerners coming into India to just learn this yoga and take it as their own their actual profession, their mainstream profession in their own countries. So you will be having two options: starting your yoga academy in your own city and teaching the international students with proper plans and proper executions, as well as going into the Western countries and starting your own yoga academy. And nowadays, more than 170 countries has taken this yoga seriously, and in all those 170 countries, you can start your yoga academy. But make sure you will be having some international recognition for your yoga courses. So once you have those international recognition for the yoga courses you have done, you can start your academics anywhere in the world. Okay, so then after the yoga courses, what are the other options? Like, there is a certified course in Rashtriya Ayurveda Vidyapita, that is CRAV. It is a very competitive stream, and also getting selected as an CRAV is not a small thing, and you have to write a entrance exam for that, which is similar to the AIPGET. So if you can get into that course, and if you can learn Ayurveda for an year from an very successful Ayurveda physician in our country, you are the luckiest person, and you can utilize those 1 year like anything, and you can be successful that course. But again, your dedication matters a lot, even after getting a very successful practitioners. In every state, there are many such very successful Ayurveda practitioners. For example, in our Karnataka, we have Dr. Ravi Shankar Perwaje sir, and even in Tamil Nadu, we have Dr. Mahadevan Iyer sir, who is known for his treatment for the cancers from throughout the country, from Kanyakumari to Kashmir. If he's here, the treatment of cancer in Ayurveda, the first name comes into our mind is Dr. Mahadevan sir only. So to work under such eminent doctors or such eminent Ayurveda physicians, we can take up this CRAV course, and if you can crack this course, and you can get selected in as a CRAV. And also, next, what are the other options like short scale or herbal drug manufacturing? Like in the academics itself, you can take up this short scale herbal drug manufacturing. Like many Ayurveda drug manufacturing centers needs an Ayurveda doctor who is well versed in the field of this Rashashastra and Vaishajya Kalpana. They need such doctors in the every center. So you have to find such centers where the in and around you, where the drug like manufacturing companies are there. In such manufacturing companies, you can join as a quality control head, and all those things you can do in the field of academics itself. And also, you can do 1 year PG diploma in emergency medical service. It is mainly in Maharashtra, but not for those who are from the Kerala, or from those who are practicing in Karnataka and in Tamil Nadu and all. Those who are from Maharashtra and other states, they can do that course, and they can continue with the practicing in allopathic hospital. But remember that thing, that nowadays those who are having the MBBS, MD, MS, or DNB, or DM, MCH, all those things in the system, in the field of allopathy, they will be having such qualifications, and who are going to come to you, who have done just 1 year emergency medical service diploma after the BAMS, to take allopathic treatment from you. Just think in that line, you will be knowing the limitations of that course as well. With that course, you can only do you can only work as an duty doctor in the allopathic hospitals. And again, there will not be any individual success, or there will not be any individual identity, even after working for 2, 3, 4 decades also. Okay, so this is about the academics. So coming into the next option, other than the academics, what are the other options like other than the academics? Then you can go for the MBA or MPH, the Master of Public Health Administration. With this course, again, you can get into government schemes and all. Nowadays, government is taking up this MPH seriously, and appointing this those who have done the MPH into the various public health schemes. Again, most of the times, what happens is those jobs are contractual basis, and not exactly the permanent post and all. And also, when it comes to the permanent posts, most of the times the preference is given to those who are having the MBBS degree before doing this MPH. The first preference is given to such fellows who have done the MBBS and MPH than the BMS and MPH. So again, that is the drawback here. And it is mostly about the executing the government plans and the government schemes and all, than practicing. So those who don't want to practice, and those who don't want an individual identity with the patients, and those who just want to continue for the sake of doing BMS, and just want to continue as a professional with the degree of BMS, then they can go for the MPH and all. And other than this MPH, MBA Hospital Administration, MBA Health Tourism, all those things are there, and it is a very different stream, and actually it is very helpful if those who are very skillful in the field of management, and if those who don't want to take this practice as their mainstream profession, then they can do this MBA and work in some hospitals for a few years. Then they can find out the opportunities abroad. Like once you have the required experience, then you can find the many opportunities outside our country. Like it is somewhat better than doing working as a duty doctor, because this stream is something different than working as a duty doctor or working in allopathic hospital. But here with the MBA of management and administration or hospital management and administration, and even in the health tourism, here you will be having some authority in the wherever you are working. Whereas if you are going as a just as a duty doctor, you will not be having any authority, or you will not be having any voice to speak out in any hospitals. So I always rate this MBA better than working as a duty doctor in allopathic hospitals. So other than this MBA, you can go for the UPSC if you are good enough to take up this UPSC or PSC, various PSC of the respective states. Then you can really take up this UPSC. Uh, I would like to remember that Dr. Suman Panekar, who has completed her BMS from Mysore JAMC, and she has done IPS now, and she is presently working in Bangalore as an SP. So you can really take up this UPSC, and if you are into UPSC, you surely can make a big difference in the field of Ayurveda, because most of the times this Ministry of Ayush, who is recruiting the policymakers, or from the other fields like IAS officers who don't know what is actually Ayurveda is. Like, see, in the UPSCs and all, you will be studying various subjects, but not about Ayurveda. So those who are from the Ayurveda background, if they do this, if they crack the civil service examinations, and if they become a policymakers, if they become a bureaucrats, they can surely bring a very good change in the field of Ayurveda, and they can bring this Ayurveda into the mainstream, and they can stop this people calling it as an alternative system of medicine. Actually, it is a mainstream of medicine than any other system of medicine. Even today in the states like Kerala and all, it is the primary stream of medicine. The medicine, then comes the allopathic and etc etc etc. If you go back just 50 years ago, what was the mainstream medicine? Ayurveda itself, the mainstream medicines, but we people have not realized its actual potency and its actual strengths. So, being an bureaucrat, you can surely make big difference to the field of Ayurveda, and you can give justice for doing this BMS and all. So those who are really interested in doing this, taking up these competitive exams, and who are good in this current affairs, and who can dedicate their 2 years of life to achieve big things, they can surely dream big with this UPSC, as well as with this respective state administration services. And one more Dr. BMS doctor from Mysore, as she has selected as a DYSP in the last year. I don't remember her name actually. Um, she has selected as a DYSP after writing Karnataka Public Service Commission exam. So you can really take up this exam to do bigger achievements in the field of Ayurveda as well. Being a bureaucrat, you have got many options to make a big difference in the field of Ayurveda. So these are the other fields like management, and when it comes to the management and administration. So we have discussed about the academics. We have discussed about the management and administration. Let's go for the other options now. So other options are like clinical research. There is a course like called as MSc in clinical research and all. Those who wants to do some scientific researches in the field of Ayurveda, and those who really wants to make some contribution in the field of Ayurveda with their analytical skills and with their ability to do researches and all. Those who in the field of practicing, or sorry, if they are not good enough to have a continuous conversation with the so many patients in a day, so such people can get into the research. But make sure you are passionate about that particular field. If you are not passionate, and if you just want to earn something, and you for that sake you are getting into the research field, again will not be successful. So if you are really passionate about the researches, then get into the research field with the clinical research field, and it has also got some bright future nowadays, because as most of the people around us are really depending upon the just pratyaksha pramana and not about the anumana pramana and aptopadesha pramana. So surely this research, which we can call it as pratyaksha pramana, has got a future as well. But again, it will be like spending your whole day in a closed circuit for so many hours. You should be mentally prepared for getting into such streams as well. We can see so many Ayurveda doctors who are successful in the field of research as well. For example, Dr. Rishikesh Damle sir, who is MD of this Atrimade. But we find very less people who are very successful in the field of Ayurveda researchers and all. But when it comes to the individual identity, when it comes to the success, nothing can beat this Ayurveda practice. So again, I'll come back to that Ayurveda practice. So in the field of research, you can do MSc clinical research and get into the any pharma companies or any Ayurveda pharma companies, and even in a companies like Himalaya drug company, and in companies like Atrimade, IMIL, so many Ayurveda pharmacies are there, and international standard Ayurveda pharmacies are there. So you can get into such centers, but make sure you are very passionate about the field what you are taking up. So this is the positives about the researchers, and also the what you can do with the research field. So coming into the next option, that is drug manufacturing. If we have some very good skills in formulating the drugs, see, you can go back into the Kalpasthana of Charaka, you can go back into the Chikitsasthana of Charaka Samhita, you can go back to the various classical texts where you can find the numerous combinations, permutations, and also see the new, we can call the likes of Dr. P.V. Sharma ji as the New Age Acharyas. Those their works also very helpful considering the today's scenario. So get back to those texts written by the New Age Acharyas as well, and as well as to our classical texts. Find out the combinations, find out the permutations. See, for example, if you look into this hypothyroidism cases and all, the Kanchana Gugulu plays a very major role in case of hypothyroidism. So how come this Kanchanara works as a very good drug of choice in hypothyroidism, and has got no major mentions in the classical texts? So in such scenarios, where will you find the answer for your questions? So if you go back to the P.V. Sharmaji's work on Dravyaguna, he mentions Prabhava of Kanchanara is responsible for its role on treating the hypothyroidism. So such inputs you can get. So making such inputs, and if you are financially good enough to start your companies, or to formulate your own medications or own drugs, you can start that with the help of the senior practitioners in and around you, and you can start with just one or two proprietary medicines. That's not you just formulate one thing, and you can find many various manufacturing companies who can manufacture the formulations you have formulated under their loan license. You can do that. So this options, most of us is not well aware of it. See, if you start some one or two proprietary medicines with the loan license of the GMP manufacturing unit, with the proper classical references, with the friend circle, with the college where you are studied, you can do all the necessary things what has to be done for that particular proprietary medicine, for the sake of researchers, for the sake of this studies and all. And also, when you have taken a classical references for those formulations, then no need to worry about the double-blind studies, no need to worry about the researchers and all. You can start promoting those medications. And also, but make sure you are not claiming any magical remedies, or you are not claiming any magical medicines with your formulations. That's where the actual value of Ayurveda drugs drops and people starts calling it as a placebo than the medicine. So just make sure you are taking up these formulations, you are taking up these ideas from the classical text as well as likes of the new age acharyas works, and you are formulating the drugs under the loan license of many GMP manufacturing companies. As well as if you are good enough and if you have funds, if those who can, if you have friends who can invest on your researches, you can take this drug manufacturing also. And also make sure you are taking this drug manufacturing for the purpose of proprietary medicines, because you can find various companies who can manufacture the classical medicines. So that field has got lot of challenges, but when you can prepare these proprietary medicines with your various permutations and combinations which are taken from the classical text, you can really get into this drug manufacturing. So other than drug manufacturing, what are the other options? Again, we have covered various options as of now, like from the academics to the drug manufacturing, we have covered various options. So as I said, the last option is last and the first and foremost option you can consider is the clinical practice. So is it possible to become a, successful practitioner, successful Ayurveda practitioner just with BAMS, or is it necessary to have MD, MS, post graduation, etc.? And how to be successful practitioner? All these things will be in your mind. Some people will be thinking that if I do MS, I can get called as a surgeon, and I can get noticed as a surgeon, and I'll be having similar respect like allopathic surgeon and all. See, again, what really matters is your skills. What really matters is your success. It's no matter whether you are a surgeon, whether you have a PhD, all those things never matters when it comes to the clinical practice. What really matters is number of patients you see in your clinical practice, number of successful management of any chronic diseases, or even if you are good at treating the acute cases. What really matters is the success in clinical practice. So the first and foremost thing before starting your clinical practice, what you have to do is identify a successful Ayurveda practitioner in and around your area, where you really want to start practicing, or where you are presently living. If you are a student and if you are studying in a particular city which is not your hometown, for example, those who comes from Kerala to study in Karnataka, they can really find out that practitioners in the Karnataka itself, where they are studying in those areas, they can identify the, or they can search those successful Ayurveda practitioners. At least spend your 2 hours in a day to work with them, and go to them and approach them for an opportunity to study under them, or to learn the skills of clinical practice. So that is the first and foremost thing wherever you are. And also, even after the BMS, if you have not done this while doing BMS, even after the BMS, no matter if you are spending 6 months of time, of your precious time, to learn under them, it's going to be a life turning change in your um, career. So make sure you are spending your time to study under such successful Ayurveda practitioners. um, so that is the first and foremost thing. And even I have worked under many such successful Ayurveda practitioners while I was a student. That made my confidence to take this clinical practice seriously. And whatever I am today is because of such senior practitioners guidance and the time which I have spent under them. So you also always make sure you are finding such successful Ayurveda practitioners in and around you. And even after the BMS, you can spend some 6 months of time under them. That is the first and foremost thing you have to do before getting into the clinical practice. The second thing is how you have to set up this Ayurveda clinic? Shall I start this Panchakarma and this OPD everything at a time? So whether I will be successful if I start this just OPD, or if I start this Panchakarma center at a time, then I will become a successful. See, once you start finish your BMS, you will be hardly around 23 and a half or 24, or those who have joined earlier, they may be at the age of 23. So the age group will be 23 to 24 years. Okay, so you'll be looking very young. So people will be very skeptical to come to you to get the treatment. That will be there. Even if you take your parents to any such doctor who is very young looking, like 23 24 years, they'll be very skeptical, like, oh, this doctor is very young, whether he can treat me well or not. Such things will be coming to the mind of patients as well. So whether it is right to invest your um, so much of money in the beginning of your career itself. So you should be having a clear cut blueprints about the things what you are going to do after your BAMS. What I really suggest you guys is the knowledge of allopathy is also essential while leaving the cases, like art of leaving the cases. You just remember this thing. No doctor can take all the cases which comes to him, because it in the long run it is going to harm his name, fame, everything when he takes up each and every case which comes to him. You should know what cases you can take. To know that thing, you really need to work in allopathic hospitals to gain the knowledge of the what are the emergencies. Being a medico, we can come under, like, what are the emergencies we are going to face. To know all those things, work in an allopathic hospital, but not to take it as a mainstream profession throughout your lifetime. It is just to have some clear cut knowledge about the cases, about the emergencies, being a medico, what we are going to face, and also the limitations being an Ayurveda doctor. See, never ever think that only Ayurveda system has got the limitations. No, each and every system has got its own limitations. When it comes to the field of surgery, we have not done anything other than the Sushruta, whatever the work as done by the Sushruta, even the work done by the Acharya Sushruta, we are not taking it forward. It has taken by the other system of medicines. It is the Sushruta Samhita has taken completely as it is from the various other system of medicines. Like even the modern system of medicines considers Sushruta as the father of surgery, and they have taken so many concepts. Even the this Kshara Karma, all those things has got the mention in the Lavanbeli textbook of surgery, which is called as the Bible of surgery. In such text it has got the mentions. But what we have done with the having so much of knowledge of Sushruta Samhita, what we have really done? We have done nothing. So it's our fault, it's our ancestors, those who are seniors to us in the like in the past 1,000 years. Nothing we have done in the field of Ayurveda surgery and all. So that is the limitations of Ayurveda physician as of today. But in the coming days, with the eminent Ayurveda physicians, eminent Ayurveda surgeons coming out, we can see some major changes as well in the coming days. But in the field of medicines, Ayurveda has got a really bright future, because if you consider just the field of gynecology itself, where the today you are getting so much of cases. Like, see, if you take 5 girls of the age between some 15 years to 30 years, you can find 3 girls who are having the PCOS. So what are the options you have got in other system of medicines, especially the modern system of medicines? Nothing. So what are the options you have got in your own system? You have got many, but do you know it? No, because you are not taken it seriously. You are not taken the Prasuti Tantra and Sri Roga very seriously, and you are not really consider the various medicines, various formulations which are mentioned in our classical text, the procedures, so many procedures we have got when it comes to the Stri Roga. But are we really practicing it? No. Most of the times, the sad thing is, in an Ayurveda colleges, the male doctors never attends a even single case of the deliveries. Most of the Ayurveda hospitals never conduct even the normal deliveries at all. It is a sad thing. So, what are the things we have to do? We have to go to the hospitals and see when it comes to the Stri Roga and all. There is a notion that male doctors can't handle this Stri Roga and patients never comes to us and all. See, there is nothing like that. Even if you take modern system of medicines, more than 60% of gynecologists are male gynecologists. So there is nothing like that. Even the male Ayurveda doctors can take this gynecological field, and they can be successful with it, and they can take it very seriously. So setting up an Ayurveda clinic, the first and foremost thing is start with an OPD, not with a full-fledged Panchakarma center, because full-fledged Panchakarma center requires at least 15 lakhs investment. It requires at least minimum of 15 lakh investment. Most of the times, those who comes to the BMS are from the lower middle class to the middle class family background. So they can't invest this 15 lakh soon after the BMS. So what you can do, for a period of maximum of 1 year, you just continue earning your knowledge or gaining your knowledge in an allopathic hospital and working as a duty doctor just for the sake of that 1 year. At the same time, start your Ayurveda OPD and start getting exposed to the patients who comes into the Ayurveda clinics. The first and foremost patients who comes into you are not the one who is really interested in Ayurveda. Actually, they are those who just want to try the another doctor, who have already visited 10 doctors and they want to visit another doctor. Such patients comes to you in the beginning of your practice. So make sure you are very serious about your treatment, and also you know the importance of Chikitsa Chatuspada. Without the patient's belief or without the patient's trust, you are not going to be a successful doctor, or your treatment is not going to be successful. So make sure you are getting a right patient in the beginning of uh, your career, and in the within 1 year you can establish your Ayurveda OPD. Once you start getting established as an Ayurveda practitioner in your area, then make sure you are doing this Panchakarma also with the help of the senior practitioners in and around you. You can say, refer your patients to them, and you can take a lead in that patients, like go with them and conduct the Panchakarma procedures and come back and do all the follow-ups in your clinics and all those things, and maintain a very good rapport with the practitioners in and around you. Never take them as your competitor. That is the first and foremost thing. You consider them as your colleagues, not as your competitors. Make sure whether he may be from your own system of medicine, or he may be from other system of medicine, whoever it is, but make sure that you are maintaining a very good relationship with them. So always start with an OPD. Even I have started my OPD in the year 2015 in Mysore. uh, for few years I just continued my OPD, then I started my Panchakarma center. So never ever invest so much of money in the beginning of your career with the Panchakarma center and all. Just start your OPD and make sure you have got your own loyal patients in those years. And here again, the one more key thing is being patient enough to get the patient. If you are not having the patience, you are not going to get the patient. So patience is the key, and don't ever never ever think that Ayurveda is slow. So people takes a lot of time to come into us, and even the people don't get the result in the beginning itself, or in the within the short period and all. No, nothing like that. Ayurveda is not
always make sure that you are getting the fresh cases, and even if you get the chronic cases, make sure that you are doing a proper counseling to those patients, and you are explaining what you are going to do going to do with the particular case, and what are the options they can have other than the options in Ayurveda. All those things you need to explain to them, then only you can be very successful. So other than this one, patience and also proper counseling to the patients, other things like working on your skills. See, some may be very good in field of the surgery, like who those there will be people who are very much interested in getting called as a surgeon, as well as they have got that skills. See, when you have such skills, always focus on the surgical field itself. When you have the skills in treating the chronic cases, you then concentrate more on the chronic cases. See, when it comes to the chronic diseases like PCOD, diabetes, as well as infertility, hypothyroidism, almost all the chronic diseases, even the psoriasis, eczema, all these things has got nothing in any other system of medicines. All the system has got its own limitations, and except surgical field, in the field of medicines, nothing can be done in the most advanced system of medicine for this psoriasis, for this PCOD, for this hypothyroidism, and in the all these lifestyle disorders, nothing can be done in the field in the other systems with the medicines. So what are the options you have got? You have got not just one option, you have got not just 10 options, you have got thousands of options with your classical text, in your classical texts, with your senior practitioners who has got the success. So choose one particular disease where you can be successful.
Taking a particular chronic disease or particular lifestyle disease as our main key thing for our practice and all. So for example, if you are good enough in treating, and if you are having a good skills in treating the PCOS, you can be very successful. You can get noticed everywhere, and you can be having the individual identity. And it's not necessary to have any post graduation to treat those cases and all, and to get noticed and to get an individual identity and all. Once you have the success, that is more than enough to get noticed. So start working on particular thing. Though Ayurveda is a holistic way of medicine and all, again you start taking all the cases, but use some extra bit of your time to particular stream. Like I have given such extra effort, and I am putting such extra effort on the field of endocrinology, and understanding and interpreting the Ayurvedic principles using the modern physiology, and using the modern techniques, and using the modern diagnostic tools, and how we can interpret the things with in such endocrinological diseases, or in the hormonal diseases, hormonal imbalances, or in the field of lifestyle. See, most of the times, even today, you can hear that most of the modern system of medicine doctors itself saying that Ayurveda, this diabetic type 2 diabetes is reversible in most of the cases, and in those who is recently diagnosed, it can be reversed. All those things you can hear. But again, how we can interpret that thing with the Ayurveda Prameha and all? We come across 20 types of Prameha in our Ayurveda. So out of them, the 10 are Kafaja, and it is Sadhya. As per the Charaka itself, it is Sadhya. Those Kafaja Pramehas are Sadhya Roga. But whether we have realized it or not, whether have we realized that Prameha, these 10 types of Prameha is reversible and can be correlated, can be compared with, or can be interpreted with the sum of the signs or the many of the signs of this type 2 diabetes. I'm just stressing it on type 2 because never ever get confused with the type 1 when it comes to reversible and all. I'm just speaking only on the type 2 diabetes. So you can consider or you can interpret such in such way, and you can be successful in treating such cases as well. So what are the relationship with between the type 2 diabetes and the prameha, which is mentioned in our Charaka Samhita, and like the prameha, this prameha is mentioned as a medo pradoshaja vikara. So what are the medo pradoshaja vikara happens in case of type 2 diabetes, and how we can interpret? See, there will be increased level of the triglycerides, there will be improper utilization of triglycerides, there will be improper utilization of stored glucose, there will be improper function of the this liver. All those things will be there. Even when we talk about this hypothyroidism, the most of the thyroid functions is also controlled by the liver. The proper functioning of the liver matters a lot while having a proper thyroid gland or proper the physiological functions of the thyroid gland. So ultimately, where it comes to this Medopradosha Vikara, which is mentioned in our Ayurveda classics and all. So are we good enough to interpret such things? Are we good enough to take up this seriously? And are we good enough to work on these things? That really matters. So you start thinking in these lines and take up one particular disease and start working on that particular disease and go deep into that particular topic. As I said already, as I mentioned, Dr. Balendra Prakash sir is having a very much interest in this Rasa Shastra and all, and he's treated so many acute pancreatitis and chronic pancreatitis, various types of pancreatitis cases and all. So what made him to be so successful? He went so deep into that particular subject, and he can answer any physician or any gastroenterologist across the world, and he has got that ability. He has got uh, that kind of knowledge over a period of some 2 to 3 decades and all. Even in our Karnataka, we have Dr. Gopi Krishna Mandikera sir, who is into Rasa Shastra, where the Rasa Shastra, which is Ashukari, the Rasa Aushadis, which are Ashukaris, like which can act immediately. See, there are such medicines, there are such formulations which can kill a person within a minutes. I don't see any tablets in allopathy which can kill a person within few minutes. But there are medicines in Ayurveda when it is used in improper way. There are the there are rasa kalpas which can kill a person when it is used in improper way within minutes. So Ayurveda is not slow. The one who approaches Ayurveda may be slow, and the one who is practicing Ayurveda may not be having a sufficient knowledge in that particular field. So always, before getting into any particular disease, or before choosing any particular disease to work on, you just go deep into that particular diseases. But being an Ayurveda doctor or being an Ayurveda physician, make sure you are choosing a lifestyle disorders, and it will be a bread and butter for any Ayurveda doctor in his profession, in his career, and it will change his life like anything. There are various lifestyle disorders. Maybe it is skin, maybe it is diabetes mellitus type 2, or it may be PCOS, PCOD, hypothyroidism, like this. So choose one particular disease, keep working on that, and always maintain the documentation. At the end of the day, what really matters, when you claim that you have treated so many diseases, or when you claim that you have treated so and so cases, what really matters is documentation. Give importance to the documentation in your clinical practice. Make sure that you are maintaining those. It may be soft copy also. You are maintaining a patient's data, so that gives an insights where you went wrong and what are the, like, it will become a research where you can utilize both the Anumana Pramana, Pratyaksha Pramana, and also Aptopadesha. You can use all these things, not only the Pratyaksha Pramana, which is just a modern clinical research. You can be using your Anumana Pramana also, and also this Aptopadesha also, like Aptopadesha, how you can discuss this case where you are already successful, and the same case you take to the group where so many Ayurveda practitioners are there. So take that particular case to the group and start discussing, and you can actually gain 10 folds of knowledge with discussion. That is nothing but we have got the all those things in our Ayurveda classicals that discussion should be carried out regularly with an with a group of Ayurveda Vaidya. Then only the brushing up of our knowledge and exchange of the knowledge takes place. Tadvida Sambhasha has to be conducted. So that's why Tadvida Sambhasha has also got so much of importance in Ayurveda practice. So you always make sure that whatever case you treat, whatever the success you get, you do the Tadvida Sambhasha and you sharpen your skills in that particular, in treating that particular disease. And so never ever approach any cases which comes to you with the allopathic spectacles or with the modern spectacles. Always approach that particular case with the Ayurveda view, with the Ayurvedic view. See, in my present practice, I have came across more than 50 COVID patients. But the thing is, but the sad part is, we Ayurveda doctors or Ayurveda physicians don't have a standard protocol. Again, whether other system of medicines has standard protocols, do we really find that other system of medicines having the standard protocols for the COVID? If we think in that lines, no. Even other system of medicines don't have a proper protocol for treating the COVID. In the beginning of first few months, the protocols is entirely different. After a few months, again it changed. Now it is entirely changed because nobody is having a clear-cut picture about this COVID and all. So don't bother about the what other people are saying and all. See, as I said already, I came across more than 50 patients of COVID patients. Whether did I take all the precautions and all those things matters. But yes, really taking precautions, all the things matters. And also at the beginning of soon after they becoming the positive, they didn't come to me. Actually, those who came to take the those regular patients who were regularly visiting me for various problems of theirs. They came as usual for their fever, cold, cough, etc. Signs, symptoms, and they took treatment. I just treated them with the Ayurvedic principles, whatever I was doing before the COVID era. I just treated, and some of the patients among them got just tested with the COVID, this one COVID. Actually, they got positive after getting. Within 2 to 3 days, they have become normal with the whatever medicines we have given. But most of the times they went for the rapid antigen test and all. But unfortunately, they got the positive reports. But they really didn't have any symptoms. They have already recovered from this all these symptoms, but still they had positive reports. But how come it is? They came back after their period of 15, 20 days, 25 days, and they informed like, sir, I have taken the treatment from you and I've went for the COVID test and got positive, but I didn't take any other medicines. I just continued with the Ayurveda, and within 3 days, within 4 days, I got recovered, and even got the negative reports within the 7 days, within the 10 days period, like that. I came across such more than 50 such patients, and unfortunately, I was self quarantined many a times after because of the protocols and all, and always take the necessary precautions. Likewise, in the clinical practice, you just whatever the case you come across, you just go with the Ayurvedic principles and not with the things what we hear from the media, what we come across from the people from other system of medicine or etc things. Just go with the Ayurveda, basic Ayurveda principles. So what after BMS? What nothing, or soon after the BMS, just go for clinical practice. the first and foremost thing you want to do, and the first and foremost option you should have is clinical practice, to have your own individual identity, to have your own um, success. And also, just with BMS, if you want to get noticed, there is no other shortcuts than getting into the clinical practice. With the clinical practice, other options are there, like you can start your own academy where you can share the knowledge of Ayurveda. Those who really want to learn, like there are many people across the globe, like as of now we are teaching this, we are sharing this knowledge of Ayurveda to the Russian. As of now we are my academies, that is Krishna Ayurvedalaya, where we are teaching Russians as well. As of today, we are teaching more than 15 Russians. So even you guys can get into the teaching field, even just with a BMS, but you are not going to issue any certificates where they can practice the Ayurveda and all. That things you should not do, and all the legally whatever you can do, that legally you can share your knowledge. There is no restriction for sharing your knowledge, so you can share your knowledge with anyone across the globe. So you can really start up such academies as well, and you can also start working as in yoga academies where the Ayurveda principles are very necessary. All these things you can consider, but never ever take that as your mainstream profession. Always your mainstream profession should be a clinical practice. Other than clinical practice, you can get into the management field. Other than that, you can get into the research. Then it comes to the drug manufacturing. Then the last and least concerned thing is being working as a duty doctor, because the worst thing a BMS doctor can do for years together is just working as a duty doctor. I'm against this particular thing, because you are in states like Karnataka and all, even after if you work for 2 decades, 3 decades, you are the whatever experience you have got, it has got no legality, or it has got no certificates for your experience. It has got no value for those certificates, even if you get from the allopathic hospitals, because practicing allopathy in many states is not allowed. So if you really want to work as a duty doctor, just work for the knowledge sake, not for the purpose of earning, or not as a mainstream profession for many years. So this is about what after BMS you can career be regularly conducting the clinical those classes will be offline most of the times, and you can attend those classes offline uh, regularly. So once in a month I will be conducting the classes on hypothyroidism, and if you can and if you are good in any particular disease, treating in any particular disease, you can start conducting clinical proficiency with the collaboration with the Krishna Ayurvedalaya and this Students Lifeline. And so be in touch with the above displayed things. Like you can join us with the Telegram, and you can follow us in Instagram. So you can be in touch with us in the various social media platforms. Thank you all.